This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 177, The Dark Side of Early Retirement, Part 1, by Sam of FinancialSamurai.com.
Get ready to maximize your potential with Optimal Finance Daily, the podcast that brings you the best content in personal finance 5 days a week. Your optimal life awaits. Now here's your host, Dan Warren.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Dan, your personal narrator for the next 8 minutes or so. This podcast, of course, is where I read to you each Monday through Friday from some of the best personal finance blogs on the planet. And we've got a treat today for the first day of the new month, a brand new author here on the show. That is Sam of Financial Samurai. Sam spent 10 years in the finance industry, and the crash in 2009 really took its toll on his net worth. And at that point, he decided that money should no longer be his driving factor, and living free became his motivation. He founded Financial Samurai to blog about personal finance and retired from day jobs at the age of 34. Now, his site has had over 20 million visits since 2009, and he's been featured all over the place, so we're really excited to have him aboard the show. And in celebration, I'll be reading one of his bigger, more commented upon articles. It has over 300 comments, and since it's a little bit long, I'm going to make it into a two-parter, first part today, and we'll wrap it up tomorrow. So with that, let's get right to the post and start optimizing your life. The Dark Side of Early Retirement, Part 1, by Sam of FinancialSamurai.com. If you look carefully around the web, you'll read scores of articles about the desire to retire early. Yours truly wishes to finish up no later than 45, as I believe working for 20 or so years is a long enough time. I've done the math with various living and return scenarios, and it can be done, but the question is whether it's a good idea. Perhaps not. Now that the economy is in recovery mode, it'll be interesting to see how attitudes change toward early retirement. Will those who've short-circuited their careers feel the pull to return to full-time work and maximize their earnings potential again? I believe so. What about all our lifestyle design and digital nomad friends who had a rough time landing something stable they truly love? Possibly they'll come back too. Those who are able to retire early are often cherished. I certainly admire those who are able to cut down their desires to the bare bones and live a very frugal lifestyle. I also admire those who've been able to strike it rich very early. That said, perhaps early retirement isn't a good idea for the large majority of people. Let's explore several reasons why people want to retire early, why they exist, as well as understand why we should all think twice about pulling the ripcord too early. Someone has to argue the other side, so it might as well be me. Why people want to retire early. It isn't that obvious. Number 1, haven't found the right job. The number one reason why people want to retire early is because people haven't found a job that gives them enough fulfillment to do for the rest of their lives. Nobody quits a job they like. If there was a job paying $80,000 a year to hike in the mornings and get massages in the afternoon, I'd do that forever. Number 2, easier way out. If you are a suboptimal performer, you tend to experience a suboptimal lifestyle. It's easier to just give up as a result. Let's say you're a research scientist who after 10 years never produces any relevant research and finds no cures. Instead of going on with failure, you decide to give up and get out of the game. Early retirement is like the coward's way of not having to be the best anymore. Some even liken it to suicide. Number 3, people are lazy and want things now. Society has shifted our ideals from hard work and thinking long-term to instant gratification. Nobody has the patience to work for decades before being eligible for a pension. We all think we know more than we do and deserve to be the rich boss now. When we don't get our way, we quit, rather than letting people know we couldn't reach our potential. Number 4, a feeling of hopelessness. During the downturn, a tremendous number of people began writing about location-independent lifestyles that allow one to break free from the 9-to-5 and really doing what you want. In actuality, we all know that what they really wanted was to have a good job and be accepted by society. It's because of the downturn of 2008 to 2010 that so many were displaced with nowhere to go. If they did, perhaps they'd think differently. In an economy where everybody is losing money left and right, what's the point of working, some think? Well, the economy has roared back with a vengeance, and if you aren't working, you're falling further and further behind. Number 5, realization that time is precious. With the median lifespan hovering around 80 years old, you only have 15 years of retirement to enjoy your life if you retire at 65. People in this camp have a heightened awareness of time and therefore do everything possible to make sure they're financially stable sooner rather than later. I'm a strong believer in this thought process, but at the same time, I don't want to cut short my potential. The worst is running out of money and being too old to do anything about it. The dangers of early retirement. Number 1. Oops, you changed your mind. Imagine retiring at 37 after 15 years of work after undergrad. You spend the next 3 years traveling the world, living a leisure lifestyle and experiencing new things. At age 40, you realize the reason why travel and play is so fun is because of work. You have the urge to get back into the game, but who's going to risk hiring a 40-year-old with a 3-year employment gap? The employer will suspect you're rusty and that you may just bolt after a year. As a result, the employer simply chooses to hire someone with no gap in their employment or someone else from another firm. Number 2, you run out of money. No matter how conservative we are in our retirement money needs, something unforeseen may happen. Maybe you have a medical disaster or your house blows down. Maybe your investments tank due to a massive economic downturn. Who knows what the future holds? But if you partake in normal early retirement without the mega millions windfall, you may find yourself needing more one day. Again, a large employment gap is perceived as riskier by the employer and you may be unhireable. There's a savings guideline by age that you can check out on a post at financialsamurai.com. Just do a search for how much savings should I have accumulated by age. Number 3, hear that in tomorrow's episode. You just listened to part 1 of the post titled The Dark Side of Early Retirement by Sam of financialsamurai.com. Now, this is a lot different than what we're used to hearing on the podcast. Always good to hear unique perspectives. And since this post is about twice as long as our typical posts, I broke it into 2, and I'm going to wrap it up for you tomorrow. And before we go, if you haven't checked out our other 2 podcasts in the podcast family, come take a listen. Optimal Living Daily reads many of the same blogs, but focuses on personal development. And Optimal Health Daily is a great way to stay motivated with your fitness and health habits. And you can find them both wherever you're listening to this show. And that'll do it for another edition of Optimal Finance Daily. Big thanks to Sam for joining our collection of amazing authors. And we're going to wrap up this post tomorrow as promised. So I'll see you there, where your optimal life awaits.
Hello, Life Optimizer. This is Justin Malik, creator and producer of this podcast, but also Optimal Living Daily, the show where I read to you from even more blogs covering finance, productivity, minimalism, personal development, and more from incredible bloggers like Derek Sivers, Zen Habits, Mark and Angel, The Minimalists, and all the ones you hear on this show too. So if you enjoyed today's episode and like taking amazing blogs on the go, come on over to Optimal Living Daily and subscribe to that one too. And together, we'll start optimizing your life.
You've been listening to Optimal Finance Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.